Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video today, we are going to be talking all about bleed and KDP books, whether to use it, whether to not use it, and exactly what it means. Bleed can definitely be a little confusing, and I see a lot of questions about this because KDP gives you a lot of in-depth info, and my goal here is to explain it and give you real-life examples. Fortunately, it's not quite as complicated as it may seem. And bear in mind, I'm mostly going to be talking about KDP book interiors. The cover is a little different. It has bleed by default, but thankfully if you just use the Kdp Cover Calculator, you can calculate your cover and it makes it a lot easier. It shows you exactly where to put your design, where the middle is, where the spine is, and that simplifies it a lot. But they don't have a calculator for the interior, so a lot of that you have to figure out yourself, but it's not hard and I'm going to show you. Also, really quick, if you don't want to go through the whole hassle of figuring out interiors and everything, designing your own, figuring out bleed, all that jazz, I've got some super cute notebook interiors on my Etsy store, along with some This Book Belongs to pages that you can stick in the front of your books. And I tell you exactly which interiors are bleed and no bleed, which to choose depending on the interior that you pick. And they're really cute and they're very easy to incorporate into your books. I give you both PDFs and Canva templates for all of the different interiors. And I've got more interiors on the way, so definitely make sure to go check that out. Link to my Etsy shop and to the interiors are down in the description. I love them and I hope that you love them too. Alright, now let's get into the video. Alrighty, first things first, we're going to take a peek at the information that KDP has available right on their website. I'm not going to go through all of it, just whatever is the most useful, because KDP actually does have a lot of useful information here with all their help topics, as long as you know where to look. And this is a super helpful page. It's got a lot of stuff on it, a lot of which may be confusing. Honestly, you don't need to go super in depth into it. As long as you have a basic concept, like, you will be good to go. The majority of this, like, unless you're a professional book formatter, you don't need to understand every little tidbit of information KDP has on here. I don't even understand everything fully. I'm not a professional book formatter. That would be fun in the future, but currently I'm not. So we are going to see what KDP has to offer looking at bleed. We're just going to bypass this term entirely because it's not super helpful without looking at actual examples. And I find that this is one of the easiest things to understand right here. So the book interior during file setup and the book interior after the final trim. So it shows here what no bleed looks like and here what bleed does look like. I want to say I looked at this first when I was trying to understand bleed and I didn't fully understand it, but I'm here and I can help explain it to you now. So during the file setup, when you're looking at the print previewer, you're going to see all these lines on your page like this. Here I pulled up one of my books as an example just to show you guys. So here are the lines. Looking back here, here's an example. So there's this line here and then they've got these two lines here. It's really only one line though, but it's kind of showing you how the bleed works here, and I'll get back to that in a moment. But basically with this line, if you choose no bleed, any text, any design elements that go beyond it aren't going to be present in your book. But if you choose bleed, you're free to go all the way to the edge of the page. However, that's more for books that don't have text, or if your book does have text, make sure it's closer to the middle and not right out at the edges. Because the way bleed works, so going down and looking here, I love this picture. I think this is an awesome example. So with no bleed, available text area, safe zone. This is the same with bleed as well. Because here with the bleed image, as you can see, it goes farther, but it does get chopped off at a certain point, and that is what they're trying to show you, I think, here with these lines, even though they don't have that extra line here. So basically looking here, here is the bleed image and it goes all the way to this line here, but where they could chop it off is the second inner line right here. So basically with bleed, images, design elements, they can extend all the way to the edge of the page. And an important note, even if just one page of your interior requires bleed, then your entire file should be set up with bleed. Otherwise, you're going to have one page that's a little wonkier than the others. And another thing, bleed is only supported for fixed format files like print ready PDFs. I only do interiors in PDF form anyway, so that's not a problem for me. But just keep that in mind. If you want to do bleed but you use a different file format, make sure that you have it in PDF form. So basically, to sum up, hopefully I'm explaining this well. If I'm not, feel free to ask questions. But over here, after the final trim, any designs, lines, any images will extend all the way to the edge of the page. If you choose no bleed, you're going to have to make sure that you stick within set margins. Just make sure that your design doesn't go all the way to the edge of the page. Like, give some room in here. And that's especially if you're doing text. If you're doing text, you want to make sure that it's closer to the middle, not super out toward the edges. Because here, as you can see, they don't cut it off here, but this is the area that isn't safe, but it'll be your white section. And for example, in books such as novels that are mainly text, you'll find that most of those are no bleed. It wouldn't look too great if the text went all the way to the edges, and it wouldn't even work very well. Thankfully, in the print previewer, if you choose no bleed and you have design elements that are going all the way to the edge of the page, then KDP will be like, hey, you need to fix that. It looks like your design's getting cut off, and then you can go back, change it to bleed, change your design however you want to, and then you'll be good to go. Also, if you're using a cover, I show this all the time, but if you haven't discovered it yet, please go discover it. It's literally so amazing. The Kdp Cover Calculator, if you just search up Kdp Cover Calculator, first thing that comes up, you're just going to want to come down here, choose either hardcover or paperback. I almost always go with paperback. Interior type, black and white. Paper type, white. Page turn direction is left to right. Measurement units, inches. Interior trim size, 6x9 is common. Page count 1 under 20. This is just an example of a typical book that you could calculate with the Kdp Cover Calculator. Super helpful. And when we come here to calculate the dimensions, it shows you where your book will be cut off. It shows you where the spine is. It shows you where the front of your book is. It's super duper helpful, and it gives you all the dimensions and everything here too. So make sure to go check that out if the cover is something that you're struggling with, because honestly, Kdp Cover Calculator can probably solve almost all your problems. All right, now I'm going to get into showing you some examples, because I think that'll help you a lot more than me trying to explain everything here. So I'm going to pop over to Canva now. All right, here is a KDP interior that I created as an example for one of my past videos. Honestly, it's super cute. I went with this whole tea theme. It's an adorable notebook, and this actually works for no bleed, because as you can see, there is plenty of room on the edges here. Also, if you want to see how to create another interior just like this, make sure to go check out my interior design video. I'll leave a link down in the description and probably a link here at the top, so make sure to go check that out, because designing is probably one of my favorite parts, and thankfully it's not too hard to design interior, so make sure to go and check that out if you want to get a feel for how you can design your own books and make them look super nice and professional. All right, so in that video I went through and uploaded the whole book to KDP, and in my bleed settings I chose no bleed, and now I'm going to launch the preview so you can see. All right, here is my super cute cover, and here are the lines indicating what's safe and what isn't. So red here, if you go beyond this, your design isn't safe, but around here is where they cut it. I just realized they tell you when I hover over this red line, all text and graphics must be inside this line, anything outside may be cut off. And then over here on the white line, it represents the edge of the visible cover area after it's printed. So all of this little bit right here is going to be gone once it's printed, but over here could also be gone. You never know. So just keep everything inside the red line. And now I'm going to look over here at my interior. So it's not using bleed. All text must be completely inside the guides, as it says here. And here you can see everything is nicely inside the lines. But what if I wanted to make this bleed? What if I wanted the lines to go all the way to the edges? Thankfully, I can do that as well. Also, another thing I wanted to show you, Canva has a bunch of helpful tools as well that can help you figure out exactly where the edges are. If you come over here to file, you've got some options here. We've got show print bleed. I don't know how accurate this is though, because looking at this, it looks really tiny, but over here, it looks like this almost extends as far as it can. However, I'm guessing it could just show where it could be cut off if you choose to use bleed. So that could be helpful as well. I'm going to go ahead and remove that now. But what's really helpful is showing the margins, because looking at this, it's kind of close to how it needs to be over here on the print previewer, because right here on this edge, it comes very close. Granted, we don't quite need it all the way, but it's helpful going off of where we need to have the most edge, which is over here. So showing margins, that's super helpful. Now what I'm going to do, let's say I wanted to make this a bleed book instead. I'm going to go ahead and turn the margins off. Like for example, let's say I want the lines to go all the way to the edges like so. I can just keep doing that, going down through the book and changing the lines just like this. But if I don't want it to be quite so tedious, I can come over here and take some of these guys that I've already completed, here and delete the rest of this. All right, now copy and paste. And now here we can just keep bringing this down. Now I'm going to come here and position it and just make sure to tidy it all up just in case anything was improperly spaced. And now I've got bleed, so I'm going to go ahead and move this up just so the line down here isn't so close to the bottom. And now we've got this. And now I'm also going to bring this a little bit closer to the top and also put all of this behind really quick just so that I can move this image right here just so it's about the middle of all the lines. All right, that looks good to me. Now I'm going to push it all the way to the back again. All right, so here is our bleed interior. Here is our no bleed interior. So here the lines go all the way to the pages and it isn't text. So even if it gets cut off a little, it won't at all compromise the design, which is super helpful. All right, I'm about to show you another super helpful Canva trick because as you can see, I've got my one bleed page right here, but the rest are no bleed and we have got to fix that. So I'm going to come right down here to my grid view and here are all my pages. So I'm just going to click on the first one right here and go all the way down and then shift click on the second to last and that'll highlight all of them. The reason I didn't click on this one as well is just because I want to save it. I don't want to delete it just so I can revert back to it in the future if I want to. But of course, another option, I could also just make a copy of this and then do this whole process. So I've got both. So that's an option as well. So I'm going to come here and now I'm going to delete all of these. Now here is what I am left with. All right, so I need 100 pages total, including this book belongs to page. So I'm going to start Control C, Control V, and now I have 10 pages of my bleed interior. I'm going to come here, shift click, and I'm going to Control C, Control V with all of this so I can duplicate these pages so much faster. So here we go, Control C, Control V, and here it just copied all those pages and now I can keep going and it just keeps adding them and it's just a super quick way to create a book interior fast without having to duplicate each page individually or heaven forbid design them all individually or copy and paste each individual design elements. There are a lot of ways that you can make it so much more tedious. All right, now I'm just going to come here and delete this extra one. Now I've got 100 pages, including that this book belongs to page and not including the no bleed page. All right, so now I'm going to come up here to the share button and now the download button, and I want to do PDF print all pages except for that last one, and we want to choose the CMYK color space for our book. And now click the download button. All right, now here's where the magic happens. We're going to change it from no bleed to bleed, again PDF only, so make sure you've got the PDF file format. And now come here to upload your paperback manuscript. All right, we're back inside the print previewer and now let's take a peek. We've got my cute cover, this book belongs to page, and now for the rest of my interior. All right, here is my finished product. As you can see, the lines, they go all the way to the edges of the page. But one thing I forgot to note actually is that with your page size with bleed, it's actually just a little bit bigger. So for example, a 6x9 notebook such as this one, I would have wanted to have made my pages 6.125 by 9.25 inches. So that's why it doesn't look like it's all the way at the edge of the page. I'm not super concerned though, because I'm guessing it's probably going to cut off just that little bit anyway. But that's one thing to note if you're going to do bleed and you're going to have it all the way to the edge of the page and you don't want to risk there being that little white gap. As you can see here, it says if content is supposed to extend to the edge of the page, make sure there are no white gaps. I think it's small enough that it'll be fine, but that's another thing to watch for. I'm actually going to fix it really quick just so you can see. All right, I can come over here to resize. If you've got Canva Pro, start your 30-day free trial by clicking the link down in the description. Canva Pro is one of my favorite subscriptions, like literally ever, so I couldn't recommend it more highly, and the resize button is just one of the many features that is available to you. So now I'm going to change this to 6.125 by 9.25, and now I'm going to resize it. And what's cool is it literally looks like the exact same. I love how when Canva resizes it, they do their best to make sure that the design looks just the way it was before in the new dimensions, so they still go all the way to the edge. So now I'm going to come here and re-download it with the updated interior, the one that's the right page size for bleed. As you can see, super easy with Canva. An alternative, you can create a new file entirely and copy and paste it over. It is a little bit more tedious, but it's still an option if you're not ready to invest in Canva Pro. And we're back. So I'm going to pop over now and show you guys what the interior looks like. All right, here now there is no more white gap, completely eliminated through Canva and the fancy resizing tool. Now I don't have to worry about it not being chopped off. And this is absolutely perfect. It's exactly the way that I want it to be. And here, the most important elements I don't want to be chopped off, such as the text and this little spot for the date, they won't get chopped off because they stay within this gray grid. If something were wrong with it, I could easily just pop back over here, grab it, bring it down more if I needed, but it's just fine as it is. And another fun thing to note while I'm here, your printing cost is the same regardless of whether you choose bleed or no bleed. So don't choose that if you're just trying to reduce your printing costs. Ultimately, whether to choose bleed or no bleed, it just comes down to the design of your interior, the elements that you're using, where your text is. And remember, if even one of your pages requires bleed, if you've got an element of your design that goes all the way to the edges, then you are going to want to make sure to choose bleed, even if the rest of your pages don't require it. Alright everyone, that's about it. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope that this video taught you all about bleed in KDP books, whether to use it or not. I know it can be complicated, but I really hope that I simplified it for you guys so that it doesn't feel quite so complicated as it once did. But if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. I will do my best to get back to you as soon as possible and answer them to the best of my ability. And don't forget to go check out my Etsy shop. Links down in the description. I mainly got a bunch of covers, but I also have some super cute interiors, some super cute This Book Belongs To pages, and a lot more on the way. And if you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more content just like this. I would super duper appreciate it, and I would love to have you. Alright guys, I hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Bye!